It's a scene of horror, ladies and gentlemen. 15,000 Americans trapped behind enemy lines with the Taliban controlling all roads to the airport. So how these Americans possibly escape President Biden's ruthless blunder? And why does our president continue to double down on his disastrous decision? The big question: is it time to invoke the 25th Amendment? Dale Hurd has more.
President Biden says U.S. forces will stay in Kabul until all Americans are evacuated, even if it means extending the August 31st deadline when all U.S. troops are supposed to pull out. For now, chaos outside Kabul's airport as thousands of Afghans try desperately to get out of their country. U.S. forces control the airfield, but the Taliban control all roads leading to the airport. Militants have been beating women and children trying to flee. The U.S. Secretary of Defense says Americans in Kabul will have to get to the airport on their own.
We're going to do everything we can to continue to try to deconflict and create passageways for them to get to the airfield. I don't have the capability to go out and extend operations currently into Kabul.
Right now, some 15,000 Americans are trapped behind Taliban lines.
We're going to get everyone that we can possibly evacuated. And I'll do that as long as we possibly can until the clock runs out or we run out of capability.
Meanwhile, General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said even though there was a possibility that the Taliban would gain power after the U.S. pulled out, no one predicted the country would fall so quickly.
There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days.
In an exclusive interview with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, President Biden said he wouldn't handle the U.S. withdrawal any differently.
The idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens.
Democrats gave the president their full backing when he announced plans for the unconditional withdrawal. Now some are changing their stance. In a statement, the Democratic chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Bob Menendez, said, quote, "I am disappointed that the Biden administration clearly did not accurately assess the implications of a rapid U.S. withdrawal." Swift and blistering rebukes from Republicans. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell calling the evacuation a botched exit.
All of this is the aftermath of the decision first to withdraw and then to withdraw in a precipitous and incompetent way.
Florida Senator Rick Scott taking it a step further, saying the president should be removed from office, tweeting, "After the disastrous events in Afghanistan, we must confront a serious question. Is Joe Biden capable of discharging the duties of his office? Or has time come to exercise the provisions of the 25th Amendment?" Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is we don't have a president. He just isn't able to fulfill the duties of his office. Well, Michael Sheetshelf is a senior fellow at the Robertson Center for Constitutional Law at Regent University, and he's here to tell us more about the 25th Amendment. And, you know, we know about impeachment. It has to be brought in the House, and then there's a jury of the Senate. They have to have a two-thirds vote to impeach. But the 25th is not it. Could you explain what that does?
Yes, sir. The 25th Amendment is designed to provide for presidential succession, first and foremost. There were a lot of questions over the first 180 years of our country about what should happen if the president were to die, to resign, to be removed from office, or to be temporarily unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office of the president. The 25th Amendment clarifies that process and allows either the president or the vice president with a majority of the cabinet to submit a letter to Congress declaring that the president is unable to discharge those powers and duties.
Well, the thing of it is, the cabinet has got to do it. And so if the cabinet is all in favor of Joe Biden, the chances of them voting to remove him are highly unlikely. Am I saying that right?
I think that's absolutely right. The reasons for putting this with the vice president and the cabinet, and this is a very destabilizing action if we were to strip the president of power, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. So the framers of the 25th Amendment, those who were working on this throughout the 1950s and 60s, decided that it was best to leave this first with the vice president, who is an elected official and who is responsible and accountable to the people, and then second with the cabinet officers, so that there can be a reasonable and perhaps objective assessment of the president's abilities.
So there really isn't anything. I mean, we have a president who really isn't capable of fulfilling his office, but his own cabinet has got to be the one that initiates the action. Otherwise, there's nothing we can do, is it?
I think there's little that we can do in terms of the 25th Amendment. That's for the vice president to determine, and that's for the cabinet to determine at this juncture. I think we need to be careful, though, to distinguish between the incompetence of the president or the incompetence of an administration and the inability to do so. The types of events that might trigger something like this, if you think about when President Reagan was shot during 1981 and was unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office, there are 3 times actually that the 25th Amendment has been invoked for the president's inability. The first was when Ronald Reagan went under general anesthesia in 1985. And then in 2002 and in 2007, President Bush was going under general anesthesia for a colonoscopy. So those are the types of events that we typically think of in terms of the 25th Amendment. Other than that, there's very little recourse for the people in terms of the 25th Amendment. That process is dictated by the vice president and the cabinet.
Well, Professor, thank you so much for explaining it. I think it clarifies it for a whole lot of us.